Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Smokin Tabacco Show. My name is Matt Tobacco from SmokinTabacco.com, and Nicole decided to skip out on us tonight, so it's just going to be me and my good man, Mr. John Carney, finally making it back to the show after a couple of weeks on the road. John Carney, how are you?
Good evening. I'm glad to be back. It's been a while. I think the last time I was on was Toscano night.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that was a fun night. We had a
And
good time.
yeah, it really was. I smoked, it rained, of course. Tonight there's no rain in the forecast, fortunately. It's just sunshine. But I smoked a half of a Garibaldi today
Oh,
um,
nice.
on my way to the gym. I'm actually burning a few vacation days this next couple weeks. I don't take a lot of vacation, and my vacation resets in June, so I had like 2 weeks worth of random vacation days to take. So I've got a few days where I'm just kind of working from home, taking it easy. So I got got the Captain America shirt on, special Crocs, sunglasses. So we're kind of in like vacation mode today.
I didn't know that you had to have the Crocs on to be on vacation. I thought you wore those all the time. So I just thought those
I
were
do,
both duty.
I I do, but I have special Crocs on.
So
I
what?
have
So
special.
you like how like there's like those dads out there, the all white New Balance dads. You know how
Yeah,
they
yeah.
have like the going out New Balance and then the yard New Balance. You telling me you
Yep.
have like a yard American Crocs and then you have like your going out American flag Crocs?
Well, my indoor Crocs, vacation Crocs, right now are these exclusive 60th anniversary. I don't think it's 60. I think it's 50th anniversary Magic Kingdom Disney World Crocs with monorail charm,
Ooh.
and so these are the ones I've been wearing around. So yeah, they're pretty nice. I got those babies on, and we're having a good time.
Well, I'm glad you look refreshed. You look good.
Thank
I
you.
know that you miss being out on the road. You used to travel what 275 days a year or something like that.
Mm.
So I know you like being on the road a little bit, even though you're a dad now, and I'm sure you like being at home more. But being on the road's fun. You had a couple events. The Hacking um, Gourmet Smoke Session Season 2 has begun. Tour de Mundo. You
Yeah,
were down at. I'm sorry. You
I
were
had
down.
two. I was up first. I
Yeah.
was up at Syracuse, New York, at Rockies Cigars up there. We celebrated their 37th anniversary last Tuesday, and then last Thursday I was at Anstead's, and we celebrated the retirement of Wayne Anstead, the owner there. So I served 225 people last week.
Wow.
A really great menu, and La Flor Dominicana cigars, and we had a great time. And yeah, it was awesome. But it was kind of like getting thrown back into the fire because it had been it had been 7 months since I'd done any travel like that. On top of launching the gourmet smoke sessions at the same time. So it was really kind of getting thrown back into the wolves. And then on top of it, um, a week and a half before I did those events, I had COVID. So I wasn't bad, but it definitely, it was sick. It took a lot out of you. So I've been really exhausted the last few weeks. I've just kind of been running on a low level of fuel, so I'm just slowly coming back. So it was fortunate that I was alerted that I was about to lose some vacation time, and I had some availability here, so it's been a good break. But it was a really good start to the gourmet smoke sessions. I've got some packs that are actually coming up to you guys. We'll smoke them on the show in the next few weeks because we got more sessions coming up. But it was great to get started, and this year's concept is really so much more culinary focused. The cigars are all paired with the dishes that are prepared during the evening. There's not as many live broadcasts, so the in-person side of it's going to be great. We're going to still be doing probably 8 to 10 live broadcasts overall, but those will be going on in different times. We're not going to be broadcasting live from the events. There's just too much going on with a one-man show.
Right.
But the culinary side of it's awesome. The increase in the not the increase, the really the leveling up of the food that we did has been huge. So it's a really fun experience. But
But the other
I'm
thing I
gonna
was
I'm
gonna
gonna
say.
ask you. Well,
Well,
no, you go ahead.
well, I
You go
was
ahead. It's
one
your
more.
show.
Sorry. There's one more thing I wanted to highlight, just because I thought it was worth mentioning before we move forward in terms of what you've been up to. You also last weekend were down at Cigar Aficionado's Whiskey
Oh
Fest meets
God.
Big Smoke. Tell us about
Yeah, yeah.
that experience.
Dude, I was on in the last 14 days. I had like 13 flights or something like that. It was crazy. Um, the Cigar Aficionado Big Smoke. It was Big Smoke meets Whiskey Fest. It's at the Seminole Hard Rock Casino, which is excellent venue, by the way.
That's the guitar-shaped
Um,
one, right?
yes, the
Yeah.
Guitar Hotel. And it's in their meeting space there, the conference center. Super great venue. The event's great. It's fun time. There's tons of whiskeys. They had wine vendors there. The food's incredible. It was a really great time, and that was at the end of my week. So it was really, I had event Tuesday, event Thursday, event Saturdays. It was one day in between each events. The only thing I'm going to say negative, and I have a good relationship with Cigar Aficionado. We as a company have a good relationship with them, but nobody's immune to some criticism. Man, it was a really bad weekend, Memorial Day weekend, to have an event of that size. It's hard to
Yeah.
justify, I think, to your family, your significant others. Hey, I'm going to go down to Miami and go to this event, or hey, babe, or hey, husband, or whatever it is. It's a really tough weekend, and there was over 1,000 people there, but I know that in the past it'd been almost 2,000 people that they'd had in those events in the past prior to COVID. So it was light, I think, for expectations. And I think they were aware of it because it was brought up quite a bit because it was Memorial Day weekend, and everybody brought it up. What I think they were trying to do was get back on a regular schedule of when they do those events. Obviously, the pandemic really screwed things up. And then after the pandemic kind of slowed down and we started doing things in person, there were restrictions in casinos, dates, times, what you could do, have to be vaccinated, not vaccinated, whatever your opinion is. These private businesses had restrictions. So I think they picked this weekend because they want to get back on a normal schedule of having it in April. Because the last one they had in 2021 was in October. So if you have it in April, it's like 4 or 5 months later, right? So it's really close. So they wanted to give an extra month. And I don't know what was available for weeks. But I was told they're going to get back on a normal schedule. The Vegas one in November, and then the South Florida one in April, which would be good because it was, man. It was a great time, really well done. But it was definitely light than what it had been in the past. Still a big success, but it was a really crappy weekend to have a cigar event. Man, the holiday weekends are not ideal. But the casino was hopping.
And
I
on
mean, it was
top of that,
busy there.
everyone was going out to see Top Gun. I mean, that's what Nicole and I did Friday night.
Yeah, so you got Memorial Day weekend. You had Top Gun came out. You had Stranger Things came out. You had Obi-Wan Kenobi that came out.
Oh
You
yeah,
had
it's true.
Memorial Day weekend. So you had, I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on. Then you got barbecues, and you got just a long weekend where maybe people want to stay at home. There was just a lot of reasons not to go out and do a cigar function. Um, like I said, it was still really well attended. 1,000 people. A lot of people would hope for that, but in just a raw, honest opinion, it was much lighter than it had been in the past. And but I think that will
Uh-oh, here comes the
improve
train.
next year.
He's gonna mute for a second,
Ugh, gotta get
maybe.
muted. I had so much to say.
Gets cut off. He mutes himself so the train can go by, so our listeners at home don't have to listen to this damn train.
Nobody appreciates the train more than the listeners because it shuts me up.
Yeah,
The
you've been accused of talking too much on podcasts
yeah,
before.
yeah. I mean, I don't really care, but they may enjoy it. But I think the event's really well done and well put together. They've made tons of improvements over the years. It's a really good event, so I don't see it being attended that way as long as they get a better weekend. I think they'll be back up to 1,500, 2,000 people easy because I highly recommend it, man. Bang for the buck if you're looking for a great cigar weekend in a crazy venue. That venue down there in Hollywood, the Seminole Hard Rock Guitar Hotel, man, it's like going to Vegas. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
We took some clients out after to a caviar dinner. We did this caviar bar. It was awesome, man. It's just the place is beautiful.
they're actually
And
they're in talks to build one of those in Las Vegas. So apparently,
they
Hard
are,
Rock
they
Hard
are.
Rock has purchased the Mirage, and
Mm-hmm.
when I keep tabs on Las Vegas a lot personally, because I have a lot of personal ties there. But so the Mirage has been sold to Hard Rock, and from what I understand, they're not actually going to close the existing resort. I think they're going to incorporate it
Yep.
into making it a new Hard Rock resort, and they're also going to build that guitar hotel there as well.
Yeah, and they're going to. I had a conversation with several people that are involved in it, and the fun. It's all set up and ready to go. They're just ready to they're going to start this construction soon, and they're going to they're going to incorporate the guitar into the hotel. They're going to change the restaurants and things inside, cigar bars. They're going to rebrand a lot of things, but they're not getting rid of the property. They're going to incorporate into it, and it's going to be awesome, man. I know some of the restaurants that are going to be going in there, and they're incredible. There's going to be a cigar place, and I know where and how that's going to be done.
So are they going to replace the rum bar?
So it's going to be special.
Because Mirage is
I
where
don't know if they're going to actually replace that rum bar, and I don't know. I mean, I would highly doubt it doesn't get replaced because there's going to be some serious construction there. But I think they're going to replace it with something that's substantial improvement or an alternative. So substantially equivalent to it. But no, it should be excellent. But yeah, man, that's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to it, and that's going to be great because that'll be another spot. That's where they do the big smoke in Vegas. But question, I kind of want to tick you off. So I want to ask you what you're smoking first, and then I want you to ask me.
Yeah, you had texted me something about this before we started when I was trying to scramble to figure out the camera issue. And I think you said, "Don't worry, you're gonna forget all about this when you find out what I'm smoking." So my mind can only imagine what it must be. I am smoking. Actually, hold on. I have to do all the producing tonight. Cigars of the Night brought to you by TwoGuysCigars.com. Tonight I am smoking the La Flor Dominicana Airbender Chisel. Fantastic cigar. Which I don't believe TwoGuysCigars.com carries this cigar.
They don't. But if you want them and you want to buy them from Two Guys, all you got to do is ask them, and I promise you that the first thing tomorrow morning, Two Guys will call me up and get you Airbender chisels.
And in addition to the Airbenders, you can find La Flor Dominicana at TwoGuysCigars.com. There is still a wide variety of other La Flor Dominicana, which, if you're not smoking La Flor Dominicana, you're missing out. Because John Carney, wouldn't represent a brand that was a stinker. So I mean, it's all you need to know right there. If you head over to the number 2, GuysCigars.com. All right, John, what is this big mystery cigar that you're smoking?
I'm smoking the Golden Bull.
Oh, fuck you, dude. Come on. Now, question though, how many have you already had?
Probably like 10 or 15.
Yeah, of course.
So I opened up my humidor and I'm like, Matt's having a little bit of a challenge getting some technical stuff. And I go, I got to grab something to smoke. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to smoke one of the NFT cigars to piss him off.
That's nice. That's nice.
And I'm using my Andalusian Bull ashtray.
Mine's actually
I've got
right over
my
there.
gold. Yeah, I got my gold ST DuPont lighter. And I did cut with my limited edition Arturo Fuente limited edition cutter.
Number 73, if I remember correctly.
I'm 67.
Oh, 67. Oh, damn. I knew
number
it
67.
was close. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 67. So yeah. So I cut it with that. I'm gonna light it up, and Golden Bull.
Boom! Look at that.
I just wanted to return in
a majestic way.
Real blaze of glory.
Yeah, John came back to the show and he smoked a cigar that is very highly anticipated that literally does not exist on the market yet because it's not available yet. So, oh, look at that. He's having some lighter trouble. That's called irony. You try to flex with your fancy cigar and you can't even light it. This is what happens, Oh, well, so much for the perfect return with the Golden Bull. He'll struggle to find some cheap lighter. And he'll,
LA Blue.
LA Blue, yeah. And I'm surprised because John's historically known as a DG lighter kind of guy. And now he's over there with all these fancy. He's got a DuPont. He's got an LA Blue. Yeah, see, there it is. Very patriotic, no surprise. But no, that's awesome. Those will.
I also don't cut. Well, I'm saying I also don't usually cut my cigars. So
that's true too. I forgot about that. You're not a cutter. You're more of a nail scraper. So
I'm being super pretentious tonight.
Do you have any update on when those actually are going to be released?
I do actually.
Because I know before when
So
we announced it, it was coming, but there was no timeline yet. So
yeah, I knew I've known we were going to do this for quite some time. We've been talking about it for over a year, well over a year. So I've been aware of it, but and I knew what the cigar was going to be and the concept, but I didn't know any of the logistics behind the scenes of how it was going to get set up, the auction site, things like that. Um, so when we announced it, I was learning to work on that side once somebody had the NFT. Um, Besides that side of it, I didn't really know anything else on the other side. So everything else there at the time, I was learning at the same time everybody else was. So the auction is going to take place in, pardon me, mid-July. My understanding is it's going to take place after the PCA show at some point in time. So it'll be that second half of July,
okay,
and the auction. We'll actually have an auction drop page that'll be launching in about the next, I think, 10 to 15 days. Uh, so roughly 2 weeks will be a drop site for the auction, which will have more details on the auction time frame, when the auction will be happening, how to get signed up, how to get into it. But I can give some information on it. So the most of these NFTs are bought through cryptocurrencies because that's the safest way to do it. Obviously, because that protects the transaction through the blockchain. If you don't know what the blockchain is, go on and look it up. I'm not here to explain the blockchain tonight, but the auction will take place with either Bitcoin or Ethereum, which are the two most protected and
so
secure
those. Sorry, not to cut.
cryptocurrencies.
So those are going to be the just to make this clear to people listening at home. So
Mm-hmm.
those are going to be the only two ways to actually process the transaction. There's not going to be like any
Mm-hmm.
credit card or otherwise form of. It's going to have to be with cryptocurrency.
Yeah, you'll have to have
Okay.
either Ethereum or Bitcoin.
Okay. I just want
Which
to
I mean,
make
it's
sure
not hard
that
to
I
get
want
those
to make sure
things.
that's clear to people listening because people might.
Yep,
That's all.
yep, yep. And that's just a really secure transaction. Bitcoin's real secure. Ethereum's real secure. There are other cryptocurrencies that are also secure. It's just those hold the most value, and are the most secure to purchase with. So it's not difficult to get that. But we will have a drop page, I said, coming out here very, very soon. That will make that very public. We'll be talking about it. And so that'll be very well known. So that's coming soon. So if there's more questions, that'll answer it. And as we get closer, we'll be talking a little bit more. I know Tony's got some plans to go on some shows and talk about this. I'll be on here talking about it, and any other shows that I'm on, I'm sure they'll ask. And Matthew and I are actually throwing together a concept. I don't know if you want me to say much about it, but
Go
we're
right ahead.
talking about doing. Yeah, we're talking. We're not talking. We're going to. Um, we're going to be doing some LFD sponsored live kind of play by play of some of the auctions. So I think what we'll probably end up doing is 2 or 3 shows. We'll do one and go live when the auction starts for the first NFT, and then I believe probably what we'll do is so as the auction ends, it's 48 hours of auction time. So as the auction ends, it's not just you get your bid in the last second and then you won. There is some time where there's there may be some back and forth. So my thoughts are we'll most likely do the beginning of the first auction, the end of the first auction, and then the very end of the final auction. And there'll be 7 of those. So you're looking at probably 3 shows. And we'll kind of be doing play by play as the auction starts. We'll bring some guests on, and then we'll do play by play as that first one ends. And then we'll do the same thing, only with just the end of the. Oh, my dog is on the prowl. But we'll do the same thing with the final episode. So it'll be kind of like watching a basketball game or football game. We'll be doing a little play-by-play, following along, and live streaming the auction. I think it'll be really fun to smoke and see what happens. And hopefully we can smoke some golden bulls that night too, while we still can, before they become violently even more elusive.
Wait, so
Um,
does that mean you're gonna get me some though, so that way I can partake, or you mean like you're gonna smoke and I'm gonna smoke my Airbender chisel again?
I think what I'll probably do is, so it'll be you, Nicole, myself on the show. So I'll get 3 cigars and I'll smoke all 3.
Okay, that's fair. That's about what I expected.
No, no, no. I'll make sure we get some. We'll all be smoking them. That'll be a fun time to have it. But it's going to be really interesting to watch. And I've got there's lots of interesting things in it, and it's a really unique concept as a whole. Simply because there is some value, there is actually physical value to it, and there's actually physical financial value to it too. I mean, you get these cigars, they're going to have, if you get 70 of these a month, the right to buy 70, there's a value placed on that based off what people would be willing to pay for it.
Yeah, it's
So it's not just value on digital art, which you do get that digital art as well. That's what an NFT is. But you get that digital art and then the right to be part of something. You get the gift of the gold bullion humidor. So there is some value for it, and some people it's not for them. It's a little pricey. It may not be things. Here's the thing: there's a lot of great cigars out there. If you don't want that limited, crazy, exclusive thing, I'll tell you, there's great cigars. It's to everyone's taste. I think this is very, very good. Do I think it's the best cigar ever made? I don't know. I've smoked the Oro Blanco before. I don't. Do I know if that's the best cigar ever made? I don't know. I was very, very good, and the same thing with this is very, very good. And there's a lot of very, very good cigars out there. So if it's not for your taste, it's not personal. You don't have to. I've seen some people. Let's make cigars for the common man. The same day we announced the NFT, we also announced the Rolling School, which was sub $4 cigars. So we do make cigars for everybody, and it's the quality consistency there. So
Well,
anyway,
while we're
there
on
you
the
go.
topic of
Como.
La Flor Dominicana and cigars to come, before we get to the topics at hand tonight, since you have been gone, your boss was on the show, and we talked a lot of shit about
Yeah.
you, and said, hey, do you really have to, deal with this? John's not here. This is a safe space. We can talk openly. No, all kidding aside. No, but so Litto Gomez was on the show while you were gone, and with Litto actually. And you heard it here first. Smokin Tabacco exclusive. La Flor Dominicana will be debuting a new cigar at the 2022 PCA trade show known as the Soleil, which translates to the sun or sunshine. This cigar is going to be theme-wise the opposite of Tony Gomez's La Nox. This is a blend that's done by Litto's other son, Litto Gomez Jr. And that's all we really know about the cigar at this time. And John Carney has, as well as Litto Gomez, have both been very tight-lipped on this release. They're saving their punch for the trade show floor, which, don't worry, we'll bring you all of that information as soon as we get there. John and I, we've been talking about how La Flor Dominicana will re-enter the trade show floor this week, and I think you can expect it to be very majestic. More majestic than just showing up with a golden bowl. I'm thinking more WWE style. I don't know. We'll see. I can't say too much. John knows the plan, but I don't want to give it away. I want to save some surprises for Las Vegas. So you'll have to just tune in and find out. But it's going to be majestic. They have a new cigar coming out. They're making their return to the trade show. It's going to be really awesome. It'll be nice to have LFD back at the trade show this year. A lot of fun. John and I have already been talking about what we're going to eat while we're in town together. So it's we're getting very, very excited. The other thing.
So I got a question. What did Litto tell you the name of the cigar was? The Soleil.
Soleil or Soleil, whatever, however you say it.
How'd you spell it?
How did I spell it?
Yeah.
Like on my website when I wrote the.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hold on. Let me look. Let me go to my website. Do you not spell it the way that like it's traditionally spelled or something like that?
I'm bringing it up because there's some different spellings out there. I don't know. Did you spell it Soleis?
I spelled it Soleil.
Okay, Soleil. So that's actually not the name of the cigar.
Oh, really? I thought I got the spelling right.
No, it is Soleil, but it's Solis, and it means sun. The sun.
So Solis, no E, no L on the end.
Yes, no E, no I at the end. And by the way, I don't know if you can see this. But right here is the picture of the cover of the box.
I've seen that photo.
Well, I'm showing you. I showed you that.
I've seen what the box looks like.
The cool thing is with that, like that. So that is the cover of the box, man. That's over a year ago, well over a year ago that I had that picture from, maybe 2 years. Um, so like it's literal proof that it's not BS that this project's been in the works for several years. But yeah, it's SOLIS. I have no other details on it. I have smoked it, but it literally translates to sun, SUN, the sun. So
Yeah.
it's essentially the exact opposite of Lennox, but coming from the mind and the works of his other son, Litto.
Yeah, it's gonna be very exciting.
Yeah,
So now, can I ask you this question? I know you guys
yeah,
are being very tight-lipped, but let me see what you'll tell me. So when you're talking about being like opposite of Lennox, right? Lennox is it's a very dark wrapper. It's a very strong cigar, full-bodied cigar, great cigar. Now, this being the opposite, is that also going to be the blend? Are we looking at maybe a very mild-looking cigar? I mean, it's still LFD, home and Ligero, but what are we looking at
it's it's it's
blend-wise?
not going to be mild. It's not going to be mild, but you're going to be looking at a natural wrapper. So when
Okay.
they're side by side, they're going to be contrasting type thing. So it'll still be a full bodied cigar. We're not doing any. We do have plans with our mild line
Hmm.
sometime this year, I believe. But yeah, the more the opposite. It'll be opposite in color, contrast. Flavors are very different. They're not close at all. Uh, but it's certainly not going to be mild, medium to full bodied. But
So
the appearance wise,
it's not going to be like a variation of Lennox that's like different.
you know,
It's a completely different cigar. Like
mm,
they're packaging wise and whatnot, they're related, and the name they're related. But other than that, the cigar blends are very different. It's not like it's a
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Very interesting.
yeah,
Well, you've heard
yeah,
it
very
here.
different ones.
You've heard it here first. There is a new cigar coming from La Flor Dominicana once again. We've announced it here. Talked about it. Um, and you'll see that cigar in what day is it? Just over 30 days. Just over 30
Yeah,
days.
and we traditionally, we were traditionally release details on PCA releases, generally the week of PCA or the week before.
Hmm.
So you can expect to see probably some information on this at the earliest, the end of June, um, if we stick to kind of the routine that we have on it. And by routine, there's no like specific schedule. It's kind of when the stuff's ready. Um, so it's just traditionally been around that time frame where everybody's in the mindset to get the information out. Um, so the earliest you can expect to see it mid to late June, and then at the latest the week of the PCA show. But we will have that product there on display, and with the other concepts and other things we have going on, I'm not sure if LG will be back at the show.
Hmm.
I'm hoping it is. We have about 4 or 5 projects that have been on hold for the last 3.5 years. So there's a lot of stuff that could happen, and it all depends on how comfortable Litto is with our production schedule and our ability to produce cigars at the factory. Because as we release something new, we don't want it to have a big impact on the products that are already in super high demand and really backed up. As retailers watching would know that there is a significantly higher demand than there is for supply right now. So we don't want to impact our production schedule on those items as we're digging out of the hole just by putting these out. But there are some projects that are on there, so there could be some serious announcements coming in July from us. But there's already some that Litto talked about on the show, but there could be more, or there could be some that push towards the end of the year. So we'll see over the next 30 days where that goes, and it should be a really exciting trade show for us. So
Yeah, absolutely. We're really excited for it. Um, so I wanted to get into our topic. We didn't have a guest tonight, so I wanted to come up with some kind of concept that we could use on the show tonight because we don't. It's it's very rare that we don't have a guest. But I've been trying to, as I move forward with my scheduling on the show, I'm trying to have some more non-guest nights too, so we can start to work on some different concepts. But just even as a breather, just for us, it's when there's a guest here, there's a whole format and everything that we do with them. But when they're not here, it's a little more relaxed because we can just focus on each other and we don't have to think so much about everything else that we have planned we got to get to. So, and these people are also very busy, so they give us the time. We try to make the most of it, right? So, but tonight I came up with the idea of maybe talking about some things that people don't know about cigars. I mean, a lot of people watch these shows and a lot of people follow stuff online, and um, you know. and the people just smoke every day. But there's a lot of other things. There's a lot of little tidbits of information. I mean, nothing groundbreaking that is going to blow your mind really, but little tidbits of information maybe people don't realize, or maybe people have never heard of. And John, being an industry expert, working with a manufacturer, also can attest to this too from a manufacturer standpoint on certain things. So, I'm gonna get right. I have a list of a couple different categories of things. I'm just gonna kind of go through them lightly, and we'll go back and forth. And John, feel free to chime in at any point on anything you want
Yeah.
to explain or whatever. One thing that I know you can speak to as a manufacturer. So, a highly skilled Dominican torcedor, which is a cigar roller, can produce up to 200 cigars per day. Now, John, how accurate is this information?
Was the number, so it cut out a little bit. You said it was the 200 up to 200?
Up to 200. On average,
I mean, that's easily doable. Yeah.
on average at La Flor Dominicana, what is the average roller roll in a day?
So these rollers are working in most of these factories of our capacity. We're a medium-sized company. The large companies, they're working in pairs. So one's doing the binder and filler, and then the other's doing the putting the wrapper on and finishing off the cigar. So they could do 250 to 400 cigars a day, depending on what the size, the shape, the blend is. Now the goal with it, and this is something people may not know, a lot of factories, especially companies similar to our size, Steve Sock is one that's similar. I know we got him coming on the show. Pete Johnson is similar in size. There's no rush to get things out because you're only going to make the number of cigars that you have planned to make essentially for that year. So you kind of scale it back a little bit because these rollers get paid based off of how many cigars they roll. And, when it gets discussed a lot, we tend to pay a little bit higher than average in the Dominican Republic, but because we also don't want our rollers to overroll, because if you're getting paid by cigar, you're going to try to get as many done as you can. And I'm not saying it affects the quality all the time, but you certainly want to monitor it. But yeah, I mean, I'd say probably a pair of two could get done probably 400 cigars a day. And that's really right around the number. That's kind of where you're at, 200 cigars a day. Where'd you get that information?
So a lot of the things that I have are tidbits of information that I have done. I did a little bit of a research this week from various different sites and other blogs and other media people that have published information, and I kind of compiled a list together. So that's where that came from.
Nice. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty spot on. One person by themselves, probably on 200 cigars is realistic, and that would be a high, their high percentage of what they're making would be smokable without very many issues.
Now, another interesting one on here, which is maybe this one's not as lesser known, but if you've been smoking cigars long enough, you may have heard this. But to give you some perspective, we always talk about, there's the cigar industry and there's the other tobacco industries that we try not to associate ourselves with. But for the concept, or for the sake of the comparison, right? When you're talking about cigars to cigarettes, the tobacco in one average large cigar, which I'm going to use that terminology as a Robusto or a Toro, and not maybe like a Lancero, Corona. Let's maybe Robusto, Toro-ish size when I hear the term larger cigar. One cigar is equivalent to a full pack of cigarettes. Now, as we know, it's not the same. It's different tobacco, so it's not like, oh, you're smoking a whole pack of cigarettes at once. In theory, in terms of the volume of tobacco, yes, but it's really not the same. So don't send your mind to like, wow, I'm smoking a pack every time I have a cigar. No, it's not the same concept. You also don't inhale a cigar too, so you get that going for you. But yeah, to give you some perspective, especially when you look at the cost of one pack of cigarettes versus one cigar. Sometimes, I mean, you think of it that way. Depending on what cigar you're smoking, they could be a little similar. Because there's a lot of tobacco there. Another interesting one, and this is something that I want to flash back to last year's PCA because this is definitely a lesser known fact. I actually first learned this from David Garofalo. He actually taught me this, and then I had the opportunity to go to J.C. Newman down in Tampa, Florida, and visit the El Relo factory, and I got to actually see this in not in action, but I met the people who do this. But in factory workers in Cuba and even in some of the other countries like the Dominican and John, I don't know if you guys do this at La Flor Dominicana, but while the rollers are in the rolling room working, in some factories there is an audiobook playing, or traditionally back in the day before technology, there was something known as a lector who would actually read to the rollers as they worked. Now, this is something that even I didn't know about until about a year ago. And last year, when JC came to the PCA trade show, they brought their historian slash lector from the factory in Tampa to the trade show. And if you remember the coverage, they had the model of the factory as their booth, and you could kind of like go inside.
Mhm.
Well, he actually was there, and he was actually in addition to all their salespeople and their whoever they were meeting with on the show floor, they had him there to kind of give them information and some history on the factory and cigars and tobacco and stuff as well, which is very interesting. Do you guys do that at LFD, or maybe like once in a while, or?
We 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 certainly don't have anybody reading as a lector. That would be awesome. We have somebody in there like reading stories. No, we play music, man. It's just music blaring all the time. It's like a party.
Yeah, I mean, I assume most factories it's probably music, but um,
That's pretty
especially
cool, though. I
yeah.
remember that from the tour at the factory down at JC Newman too, and I remember seeing it. I smiled the same way I just smiled there because it's like just the image of like I'm thinking like if I walked into our factory and there was somebody standing there at like a
Podium.
pedestal, yeah, podium reading a book, I'd be like, what in the heck is going on?
Yeah, yeah. And I think more often than not, like this happens in Cuba more. It's a different kind of country. They're not allowed to have music and be happy because it's such a
Well, and
sad
they
place.
also don't have cell phones and access to social
No,
media.
no. So having someone read to them is about as good as it's gonna get for them. Um,
Yeah, I hope you enjoy your Cuban cigars when you realize the person that made them has to struggle to find toilet paper when they go home at night.
yeah, it's true. So when you pay three
Yeah, they
hundred
can't
dollars
find.
for the
Yeah,
Cohiba 55
yeah,
anniversary, you know,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I hope when you're standing on your pedestal because you know Cubans and you smoke Cubans and you're a purist and this and that. I hope you realize that the person that made that doesn't get any of it and struggles to find food at night. And I hope you're strong enough and your ego's strong enough to help you sleep at night with that. I'm sure it is.
yeah. It's true. You know, and actually, I see Berta Bravos in the comments with us tonight. Shout out to her. She's actually gonna be on the show later this year.
Roberta.
She was actually in, since we're on this topic, she was actually in the documentary Handrolled, and she actually had said that, I'll never smoke a Cuban cigar as long as communism exists. So that's kind of, what John's talking about here. These people, in these countries, you're buying these Cuban cigars, you're paying all this money for them, and they're made by people who don't have toilet paper and they don't have enough food. When they go home at night, they get paid like what, like $50 a week, if that. I
Maybe,
mean,
oh, dude, God, not even that. No way. No way.
yeah, it's sad. It's
No,
very
no
sad.
way.
So when you
Mm.
see these expensive Cubans, and from time to time, I have been known to enjoy some Cuban cigars from time to time, but it's really not a very common cigar for me to smoke. Um, there's plenty of other cigars that are, way better quality, um, that are worth enjoying. But yeah, it's
I
it's it's
honestly,
it's
I
hard to
honestly don't
support
buy them
them.
anymore. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't buy them anymore, man. I just don't. I was like, I finally, I want to try them and things like that. But then the more I think about it, I'm like, over the years, I'm like, I go, all I've done is support something that's oppressing this person. And then the more people that I've met in the industry, like I had a great conversation. By the way, we got to get him on the show, Rafael Nodal.
oh yeah,
I had a great conversation with him, man. And for some reason, over the last 6 months, my Facebook feed has just been like mostly him. He and I smoke. He and I like cigars. He and I both like to drink wine and champagne, and we both like to eat and post those things online. And I never intentionally like sought out any of these things, but Facebook for some reason, just recently in the last 6 months, it's like I see every single thing he posts. They throw it on the algorithm. Um, so we had a long conversation at the Big Smoke, and I was asking him, I never really knew his story that much. And I said he goes to Spain quite often for other things we can ask him about when when we hopefully have him on the show sometime. But I was like, are you a Spaniard? He's like, no, no. He's like, I'm from Cuba. And he goes, my family came over here in the '80s. He was on a boat, and I didn't realize it until he told me the whole story. And I didn't realize it until the next day that it was like the 40th anniversary of his family coming over. It was like that night. So he was like telling me that story, and I'm like, man, that's incredible. So sitting there talking to someone like that who came from that, who's been very successful over here and showed what a free country can provide to you. I have the freedom to buy the things I want, and there's a lot of things that I probably buy that come from things that are oppressed. I can't, I some things, I can't control everything, and then there's some things that I just want to have. I mean, when I understand that, but
Right.
if there's something I have control over in an industry that I'm involved in, that's something I can have, a small little impact in on a personal level and say, hey, I'm not participating in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, sorry, I'm just gonna keep rolling through this list. So another thing that actually there's two that are more on the medical side, ish related. So the first one is not a lot of people realize. You've probably heard people say like, "Oh, cigars are good for relaxing and yada yada yada," which is true, very true. But I during my research, I found that it's actually a lot of psychiatrists and therapists have actually told their clients, and multiple. This is kind of I guess, a well-known practice within their community, of actually not really prescribing, but suggesting to their clients and their patients that they should take up the occasional cigar because it will help reduce their stress, anxiety, and other issues that they may face because it has been proven to be a relaxing activity to help wind you down. Um, the other thing I was going to say is I found, and I couldn't find any more information on this because this was one of the last ones I found, and I kind of ran out of time. But one of the things I found said that supposedly, I'm not saying this is a fact, but supposedly cigars can help to reduce the risk of Parkinson's disease. Now I don't know, I haven't done enough research on that, but according to the survey I did of things that I was looking for, that came up twice. So I'm not sure about the science behind that, but interesting. Thoughts, John Carney?
So I'm in the comments section right now because we've got some conversations on the
Absolutely.
on the comment sample. So uh, David Neved Siwang, he's got like 87 names.
He's a
He's
cool
got a
guy.
first name
He's a
and a
cool guy.
last name, and he's got two middle names. Yeah, he is a cool guy. Follow him online, good dude. And he said something. Hey, that shirt could have been made for someone else. Yeah, I think it probably was. It's probably made in Vietnam, so it's not as bad as it used to be. But I like Captain America shirts, and I don't really have a lot of other options for Captain America shirts unless Marvel was going to sue me. I could take the logo and mass produce them for myself with shirts made in the United States. But I like these, but I try not to do those things. And it said an industry that I'm in that I have active knowledge about, that's something I can control and be a part of. So is what it is. But yeah, I mean, there's always going to be some things, like I like animals and my neighbor, I like to eat them. My neighbor likes them not to die. We don't really get into it, but he comes over to my house with a vegan shirt on, and that has a tattoo that says that non-vegans should die or something. I don't know, but it's just something I can control. But yeah, there's so many things, and just put things into perspective. As we get more knowledge as cigar smokers, there's a lot of things we can do. So what was the last tip?
So, in addition to psychiatrists and therapists,
Hmm,
recommending cigars, there's also I found cigars supposedly help reduce the risk of Parkinson's disease.
interesting.
And I haven't done enough thorough research on that specific point, but I'm very curious what science came up with that. I can't say that it's wrong as I don't know, but I'm very skeptical, very interested. I don't know. I mean, it, I don't know. It's
I
interesting,
mean, I will tell you, like still the leading cause of death in the United States is cardiac related things.
right?
And stress can lead into a lot of those things. Now that there's a lot of mental health issues, so I think if an occasional cigar, once a day, once every couple of days, a few times a week, whatever, um, you know, sitting down and having that and taking a moment and relaxing and getting your mind off things, it can't be all that bad. Uh, and it's just common sense, right? Like if you're going to do something that's going to help you relax for a short period of time, It's not going to have a significant. It's not going to have an immediate impact on your health by any means. I mean, you'd have to smoke cigars for way longer than the average lifetime, probably to have it having a physical effect on you on a short-term basis. You probably have to smoke 100 cigars at a time if you'd have an immediate medical issue. But there's a lot of things that if you drink too much water, you can drown yourself. But I think anything like that, right? It's just common sense. Like if you can sit down and relax, and this rests you a little bit, you're thinking like what we're doing right now. We're forgetting about the things we talked about during the day, the things that stressed us
Well,
out. I'm pairing a $1 Miller Lite with an unattainable cigar. So I think that's just common sense, right? And I think that the Parkinson's thing is really interesting. There's a lot of like Asian medicine, like India and stuff, where there's a lot of smoke and tobacco, and things were part of that. So I don't know. Who knows?
so another thing, actually, we kind of lead into the next step with this, right? Another thing that came up was that some have claimed, and it was probably by some, it was probably Matt Booth. When you hear it, you'll know why. But according to some, cigar smoking can be very sexually stimulating in the bedroom. Even Freud believes cigars had a sexual undertone. So, I mean, if maybe you're having some issues in the bedroom, maybe you got to burn a couple before you get in there, and I don't know. I mean,
I
everybody has their thing. I don't know.
there there is. I think there's a thing like when you're growing up, you have like oral fixations as a baby and different things you learn about different holes and spots or whatever.
Oh,
And
okay.
so yeah, I guess. But I mean, there is something, physically alluring about, having a puffer cigar, relaxing. They use it in movies a lot. You see a lot of movies where, cigarettes and the cigarette holders are very sexualized, and the puffing side of it. Matt Booth's a good friend of mine, and I really respect him. But I don't think the way he sexualized his straight show group last year was a little uncomfortable, and I wouldn't do that. But to each their own. He has the right to do it.
He
So
was
good
gonna
for
have a
him.
sex swing, but they forgot the bass.
Yeah. It was the thing was ridiculous and stupid. But again, I support his right to do that and support his the way his brain's working there. But yeah, there's definitely a sexual nature. I mean, what was it in all the movies or whatever? It was, oh man, I just had a busy night. I just had a busy night in the bedroom. I need a cigarette. And you see that in movies. So yeah, I think I never really thought about it that much. Um, I think the biggest joke I get, from time to time I hear is when anybody pulls out a big ring gauge long cigar. Oh, you're gonna put that in your mouth? People joke around about that, but like, no, I'm putting a cigar in my mouth. Yeah, but you know,
Yeah. Anyway. So another interesting one that I found: cigars probably did not originate in Cuba. This theory suggests.
oh, I would 100% agree on that.
But some suggest it may have originated in Guatemala.
Interesting.
People have been smoking cigars for over 1,000 years. A Mayan pot that archaeologists date back to the 10th century shows a Mayan man smoking a cigar. Very interesting.
I mean, it would. You look at like the beginning of time. I mean, there were people puffing and smoking on things. Like you look at like Egyptian hieroglyphics and things. Um, it's really interesting. So I was just looking up here. So like Cuba was like
And a lot of
Cuba.
people
It
always
says
assume that it was Cuba, or you hear this a lot. That it was way back in the Taino Indians in Cuba and all that. But other studies suggest that it was way before that, and it wasn't even in Cuba.
yeah. I mean,
It was in
and Cuba was
Central slash South America.
I was looking up some stuff here because it was Cuba was colonized by Spain originally.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. It was there. There must have been tobacco over in Europe at the time, and then the Middle East, Africa. I mean, you look at Cameroon. Like this Cameroon tobacco's coming out of there.
Right.
So there had to have been tobacco plants there before. It wasn't like these plants were indigenous. I'm sure people were when fire was invented, they were burning and puffing and smoking and
Well, another
doing
thing that
whatever
I
they
had
could with it, right?
found, another thing I had found was that when Christopher Columbus, you know, sailed the ocean blue, as they say. And when he was, he was exploring the world. The native peoples he encountered in the Americas were smoking twisted rolls of tobacco leaves bundled in dried palm or corn husks. And that was, 1492,
Yeah,
1400s. I mean, interesting. I mean, tobacco is the plant itself, the leaves, they've been around for, probably the beginning of time,
forever, I
as
guess. Yeah.
most things that were the gift of the earth, they've been here longer than us. So it's not hard to imagine that, at the very earliest of time, someone found tobacco and, either tried to eat it, and then somehow, in some way, it developed into, oh, we can smoke this. And, as, many things in this world are, you don't know the exact beginning of how they came to use it. But, yeah, I mean, it's definitely not out of the question. It's, again, and it's been in history books and stuff. Tobacco has been around for a very long time, and it's been a king crop in the world for a very long time too. I mean, these early travelers and explorers, I mean, tobacco was a very common good that they would bring back to Europe with them and trade with. Um,
Yeah, it's
with
a cash crop.
yeah, it was cash crop. So it's been around for a very long time, which also goes back to why we fight for cigars and our cigar tobacco so much, because it's been around since the dawn of time. So why should we take it away now? I'm sorry, I lost my list here. I'm trying to get back on page. Another interesting thing, we're going to circle this back to the manufacturer side, and this is one you've probably heard before. If you watch these shows regularly and you hear from some of these manufacturers, like Carlos Fuente and Nick Perdomo that come on the show. When you actually get your cigar from the cigar store and you bring it home, you put it in your humidor, and you light it up and you smoke it, before you even get there, that cigar and the tobacco that's in it has probably been touched by over 200 different people. Now, John, as a manufacturer, La Flor Dominicana, you guys grow tobacco, you make cigars, you age it, you do the whole process. When you go down to the factory and you go down to La Flor Dominicana, you can attest to this. You're gonna see all sorts of different people in all sorts of different processes of the making process, just handling the tobacco, the cigars, from the aging room, the rolling room, the fermentation barns where the tobacco is aged, down to the crop, to the seedlings, the whole thing. Even the people who plant the seeds. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people that touch the cigar, which
I
is
would say one of the most underrated processes that people don't really realize. It's fun to watch the rolling. It's fun to go to the farm and see the farming. Obviously, a lot of hands touching the farming process. But when the aging and fermentation process is very, for lack of a better term, and to coordinate what we're talking about, it's very hands-on. I mean,
mm,
it's constantly working the tobacco, moving it from, they're in big piles essentially, and they're aging and fermenting in that fermentation area. So you're rotating around to control the temperatures, and that's all done by hand. And um, this very few people have this concern, but the whole process is done by hand. But I mean, at the end of the day, germs aren't living on this. It's not unclean. You're burning it. You're putting fire to it. Uh, so anything that was on there, germ wise, that would be by somebody's hands, is literally non-existent. Uh, but that process of the aging and fermentation is a very hands-on part of the process, and it's an underrated part of the process in terms of the physical handling of it, because that's a lot of work. So you figure, if you're aging and fermenting something for 2 years, the amount of physical attention that's being paid to that tobacco leaf is huge.
right. Now, there's another discussion I wanted to get into with you specifically. Anyone who knows La Flor Dominicana, your motto at La Flor Dominicana is "Home in the Ligero." Not a lot of people, I don't think, know what that means. Ligero is one of the leaves on the tobacco plant. It's the topmost part of the plant. It also has some of the most strength. La Flor Dominicana being the reputation of having some very strong cigars, they use a lot of Ligero. Now, a couple different things about Ligero that is interesting to know that you might not know is it. The first thing is it burns a lot slower. Now, during the process, when the leaves are growing, you have your visos and your secos that are lower on the plant. They get less sun and all that. Those are harvested. Perfect. There you go. If you're watching at home, you can see the diagram that John's showing of the leaves on the tobacco plant. The lower leaves, they're harvested first. The Ligero leaves are harvested later. They get more sun. They're on the plant longer. They absorb more nutrients. They're more of a tougher leaf because of that reason. It's almost like when because of their extended exposure, so they're more oily, a little tougher, but they have a lot more strength to them for this reason as well. Now, because of this, when Ligero is used in the bunch, when the cigars are rolled, it has to be rolled a very specific way. It has to be rolled very carefully because it does burn much slower. Oftentimes, Ligero, it has to be rolled in the centermost part of the cigar with all the other tobaccos rolled around it to keep the flame burning around it, to keep it lit, because it will burn slow. Now, if Ligero is not rolled correctly in a cigar, that is when you can sometimes you'll notice when your cigar burns uneven. Maybe the Ligero wasn't positioned right in the bunch, in the roll, and the other tobaccos around it have burned away, and it wasn't enough there to keep that flame burning through it, and it'll burn slower. It might even go out because there's not enough of a balance there. John, I'll let you jump in on that if you want to.
Yeah, if you're putting Ligero in the blend and bunching it in there, you're putting it and positioning it in a fashion that the other tobaccos that are surrounding it are going to help ignite that and keep it ignited to hopefully have it burn evenly. Because if you don't position it right and you don't have tobaccos around it, so a lot of people ask, oh, you should make a cigar that's just all Ligero. It'll burn super inconsistent. You may like the flavor of it, but I'll tell you from the people that I run into on the consumer side, we like cigars to burn as evenly as possible, even though it doesn't necessarily have to have a major impact. If you were blind and smoking it, you wouldn't know exactly how it was burning. You would just be judging it off of the performance, the draw, and flavor, really. So those other tobaccos are in there and positioned in a way, if you use a lot of Ligero like we do, to help keep that part of the cigar burning. So if you look at a lot of our products that are Ligero heavy, like the Ligero and double Ligero, it almost is like a little crown in the middle, like it looks kind of like a little gumdrop shape in the middle, because the middle's burning hot, the outside's burning a little bit quicker than the inside, and you can see it here. There's just a little tip out here, and that's where the Ligero is positioned, and this outside's here to help ignite that and keep it going.
Right. Now, the Ligero is usually harvested last on the plant. Is that correct?
Yeah, the reason why is the plant delivers nutrients from the soil, so it brings it in through its roots, brings it from the bottom up, right? So the last place the nutrients go is to the top,
Mm-hmm.
and that's also the first line of defense from the sunlight, which is what Ligero means. It means light and sunlight. So it pushes a lot of that up to the top, and that's also where the flower's at, which is the reproduction system, where it has the flower and the seeds, and it wants to make the top of the plant as healthy as possible. So if you crown and crowning is when you take off the flower, essentially the top of the plant.
Mm-hmm.
If you take that off, then it focuses the nutrients stop at those top leaves. So as you're priming, which is picking and harvesting the tobacco off the plant, you want to go from the bottom up, so that plant keeps delivering the nutrients to the top for as long as possible, and that's where is the most centered and the focused and largest quantity of those nutrients that are being delivered towards the top of the plant. So you harvest that last, simply because it's essentially the reverse way of how the tobacco goes. It ends at the top. In terms of, actually, it's the same process. Nutrients end at the top, and the priming ends at the top. So you work your way up the same way the plant takes care of itself and grows.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that process when it comes to the actual. You take the factory and the rolling and aging and take all that out of it. There is so much more science behind the actual plants and the growing process than I think gets talked about and that the average person knows. I mean, a lot of times you've watched our shows or other people's shows, you hear a lot about the rolling and the blending and the aging and all that. But you don't hear a lot of intense talk about the growing process, which is easily or even arguably way more important because that's the beginning of it, really.
Yeah.
If that doesn't go right, the rest of it's going to be shit. So
Well, and there's a lot of people that talk about it, and I think one thing that Litto does a really good job about is when he talks about these things, speaking in layman's terms. It's like, as we just talked about that. We explained it in a way that's pretty normal. when you watch a lot of these things, and a lot of these shows or a lot of these interviews, there's a lot of jargon that gets thrown around. Um, and you can, what does half of it mean? They throw around some Spanish words, or then they talk about this is what they get, real deep into it. It is science, but just because it's science doesn't mean that it can't be understandable. So we try to keep it when we talk about it as basic as possible.
Yeah.
Try to keep the words as basic as possible so people can understand what's going on, instead of just being, speaking in big words so I look impressive.
Now I want to pause for a
And I
moment.
also don't know a lot of big words. I'm stupid, so
Oh, of course. We all know that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. I want to pause for a moment. It is time for our news segment, which is brought to you once again by our friends at McAuliffe Cigars. If you head over to McAuliffeCigars.com today, you can sign up to become official ambassador. Get your ambassador number and ambassador coin. While you're at it, head over to Facebook and join the McAuliffe Ambassadors Facebook group, where you can hang out, socialize, and smoke with all of your fellow McAuliffe ambassadors today. This week, so as you know, it's June. We are a month away from PCA, so there's going to be a lot of PCA stuff coming out. But aside from the trade show, which again is only a piece of what PCA really is, it's not what PCA is, it's a piece. On the legislative side of PCA has launched a microsite for comments on FDA's proposed flavor ban. Now, if you heard about the flavor ban that we've talked about in the last couple of weeks, this is where the organizations like PCA, CRA, and CAA, and they all are supposed to come out of the woodwork. Well, not really come out of the woodwork. They've kind of been in the whole time, but this is where they come to fight and push back against these things. So the Premium Cigar Association has launched a webpage that is designed to make it easy for people to send comments to the United States Food and Drug Administration in opposition of the agency's proposed ban on flavored cigars. In April, the FDA announced plans to ban all flavored cigars and menthol cigarettes. Because of the rules regarding regulations by executive agencies, FDA must allow for individuals, organizations, and businesses to comment on the proposed rules during a formalized comment period which runs from May 4th to June 5th, 2022. Afterwards, the agency will respond to the comments, though it is not required to respond to each and every comment. The PCA has launched FightFlavorBans.com. Once again, that's FightFlavorBans.com to help make it easier for people to submit comments. The site has a simple contact form that has a pre-populated message written from the perspective of the cigar retailer that will be submitted to the FDA. So that's definitely one that you should definitely check out. And again, when we talk about these things in the FDA and the things that the organizations, these cigar trade organizations, that they do in the courtroom, outside of being, as I said before, a trade show. These are the things that they bring attention to, they bring awareness to, that everyone should really go and check out. I heard, right, I'll say it again, FightFlavorBans.com. You head over there. Definitely let your voice be heard. This is what it's all about. There's a lot of companies out there that are facing, loss of inventory over this. And it's only the beginning because, you lose the flavored cigars and then, people out there made comments, well, yeah, they're not going to come after all cigars. They will. This is just step one. This is step one in their master plan.
Yeah, whether you like it or not, I mean, flavored cigars are the biggest part of the of what the premium cigar industry has been over the last, 25, 30 years, really. I don't consider our products the same as those, and the FDA has come out and said they're different as well, which is a good thing. But more regulations not always the cure. And it's, as I said, it's kind of like once this is done, once the people that were against the flavors got their wishes or get their wishes, guess what's up next? Something else.
Yep, it's true. You give them an inch and they're going to come for more,
Yeah.
So again, that's why we always bring this up. There's as much awareness as we can on these issues because we all like to smoke cigars. That's why we're all here. That's why you guys are listening and watching with us. We all love cigars. That's why we voice our thoughts and opinions on this, and we try to bring as much awareness to these issues as we can. So check that out. It's definitely an important issue. Let me go back to so we're talking about things in the with cigars that you may or may not know. I think we covered a lot of good topics here tonight. Some of them lighter, easier that you might have known. Some of them I think are definitely ones that are not talked about or very well known. There's a few on there that I didn't even realize until this week when I was going through my list. A couple of them. But yeah, no, it's always fun to kind of just break away and do something a little different. Talk about tidbits of information that to help educate people. And that's the great thing about these shows. The podcasts and all the media that, especially during COVID, it got so much bigger. Is just the access to information for the average consumer that they can take away from this too. You know what I mean? So, being more educated when you go to your cigar shop. Now, that also doesn't mean that when you go to your cigar shop, because you listen to our show, that you also should go into your cigar shop and be like, I know everything, so just let me do my thing. Because those people in those shops, most of them, they've been around a long time, and they still have a lot of information they can share. So, please trust them. I've been in some shops where some people come in and they're like, yeah, I've been smoking for 6 months, I know everything. And I'm like, oh, all right, cool.
Yeah. Hey, I'll
Oh
tell you,
man.
man. Even people that are the masters at this stuff are learning things. So,
Yeah, it's true.
there's so much to learn.
You're telling me Nick Perdomo doesn't learn something every day? Litto doesn't learn something every day?
Oh, it's constant. They all are, and they'll tell you they are.
You're really enjoying my Airbender chisel, although it's
Yeah,
getting
man.
it's getting a little tight in the second third here.
They're great smoke. Well, it should start to get a little tight there at the end because we're starting to get to the end of it there, and you're working through a little bit different situation, so it should start to tighten up a little bit as you get towards the end.
Yeah, actually,
sorry, I just had to clean off my camera.
That's okay. Actually, here's another one that I'm just coming up with on the spot. So if you know La Flor Dominicana, and you know about the chisel, did you know that the chisel shape made by La Flor Dominicana is the only vitola that is actually patented?
Yeah, there's several. I believe there's several patent pending, but this is the only one that's successfully been patented, which is really fascinating.
And that is why you'll never see the chisel, at least for now, made by anybody else, because they literally cannot sell it and make it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's a question for you.
That's a really, there's nothing else like that, right, in the cigar business.
Yeah.
It's cool, and it's fun to have a story that's only ours.
So let me ask you this question, because I'm sure someone will ask this anyway. So because of that, right, as La Flor Dominicana, how often do you find a factory, most likely a smaller factory, who tries to roll and make chisels, and you have to be like, hey, you can't sell those.
Well,
you can't.
Well, we're not really finding it in the factory because we're not inspecting other people's factories.
Mm-hmm.
But so when we'll generally find something like that on a retail level. So we'll find something on a retail level. We communicate with them, and then there's legal approaches. I don't like lawsuits and things, which litigation. But if you have a patent on something, you got to respect it. Same thing if we were to make a cigar and called it Opus Litto. That Opus L, that wouldn't be something that would be, a positive thing, and we would have to respect that. And there has been companies that come out that have called cigars something X, and I respect people that have something, and if you copy it and it's something big like that, that there should be a way to protect what you've done and protect your brand. So it's not it's not a litigious situation, but it's hey, we're making this. There's a patent for it. That patent protects our ability to make that. And if you can prove that you were making it before, which nobody can, because that's why the patent's really been created, then you could show that it wasn't. If not, then there's going to be, you'd be there's financial issues and repercussions from it. So I really respect that stuff. And Litto's always been respectful of other people's brands and other concepts. And we've changed things on packaging. Airbender, for example, the two swords on there that you see, they're against essentially parallel of each other.
Yep.
Those used to cross, and Gurkha had a similar product, and Litto overnight changed it. And he was like, I had no idea. I'm sorry. I really respect that. Boom, we changed the packaging, changed the bands, and changed the way the swords are, so it wasn't infringing on what somebody else had created.
Yeah, I've heard some stories of some people who used an X on their band, or they had the shape of an X. It wasn't the letter, or it was more of something that was crossed, and the Fuentes were like, well, you have something that's crossed and it's red. looks a lot like Opus X, and they
Yeah,
had to change it. And I
yeah.
understand it. Some people are
And
like,
you
oh,
gotta
that's kind of
respect
a
that.
dick move. It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
but they have a brand that they're trying to protect.
but
That's
you
what it comes
gotta,
down
yeah,
to.
you gotta respect it. You gotta respect it, and I do see that whenever there's a litigation or lawsuit thing that pops up on a news site or whatever. I'm always, always like, oh, this is ridiculous. Well, there's a right and wrong side of it, and maybe one person's being ridiculous, but if somebody was making it first and then you're making it again, in my opinion, as a gentleman, you should, hey, what, I didn't intentionally do this, and that shouldn't be, that should be a respect level. Then, if you intentionally did it, then that's, then you're trying to be, you were intentionally trying to be having some malice at it. Then you can fight it out in court if you really have an issue. And I feel bad that things get to that level because it really should be a gentleman's thing. And if you're creative enough, you really ought not be copying somebody's thing. But sometimes creative people aren't aware of something creative, so they come out, and you got to do the right thing. If I came up with a great idea and I think it's a great idea, I make it, and then I see that somebody else had it, and I've got to make the right decision to I got to come up with something different. I got to adjust this. I got to work with this. I got to work with this person. That's the right thing to do, and hopefully that comes back on the other way too.
Now, I heard a rumor one time, which I don't know how much truth there is to this because this said issue has never changed. But speaking of Fuente, on the other side, I heard a rumor that Prince's estate didn't like the fact that they have a cigar that they released through Prometheus, known as Purple Rain. Now, I thought that was interesting, and I'm like, okay, I mean, I guess I could understand the name, but I had actually asked Liana this question when I saw her. I said, hey, I heard this rumor. Do you know if this is true? And she herself said, I haven't heard anything about that. But it got me thinking. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Because there's a lot of confusion over whether or not that cigar was named because of Prince and Purple Rain and all that, or if it was something else. But it is an interesting
And
idea.
I think the best person to probably ask about that would be in the cigar business wise in relation to cigars would probably be Pete Johnson, because he comes out with the Halloween series with the Freddy, the Jason, which is directly inspired by that. And he obviously has no legal issues with it. And there's legal situations. There's parody laws. That's how like Saturday Night Live completely copies like a news set or copies something. You can there's parody laws where you can make fun of things. There's also you can cover a song. Like I could come out with Purple Rain and cover that song and do it my own version of it, and you pay a certain portion of every time it plays. I don't know exactly what the percentage is, but it's not very high. Um, for that. Now, if you want to buy the rights to it and whatnot, that's a different thing. But there's certain things that are protected and you can do. I'm assuming in that regard, whether it was or wasn't named after the song, there really wasn't a whole lot they could do because if they went out and say we're going to call this Purple Rain after Prince, they can say this is in honor of Prince. We did this. They didn't use his logo on it. They're not putting his face on it. They're not saying it's the official cigar of Prince or the song Purple Rain. So there's a lot of protections in that when you go from industry to industry. Now, if somebody's going to come up with a song called Purple Rain, there was probably some differences to it and things they would have to do. But you wouldn't see if there's a Perdomo car dealership, I don't think Nick Perdomo would have a leg to stand on, unless they started selling cigars that were Perdomo car dealership cigars. Then he could go after them for that type of thing. So
Yeah, it's
who
true.
knows what the rumor is on that? But even if there was a rumor or someone talking about it or the hearsay, it's really not relevant to the situation on a legal matter.
Now,
I'm not a lawyer. That's just common sense.
you mentioned Pete Johnson, and he's talked about this on many shows, including this one, when he's been on multiple times. Is that one legal thing that he has faced?
Yeah.
Is that he has been attacked by Monster Energy for using the word monster, and he's
Yeah.
had to fight back on that and say no. It's because of there's trademark, and then is it trade dress? What's the other term?
There's all sorts of different things. The issue, from my understanding, that Monster had was that there was a packaging they had, and I think it was the Wolfman that had scrapes on it, like fingernail scrapes from
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
like fangs or whatever.
The
So I
claws.
think they were. the claw mark. So I think that was the issue they had, which I don't I don't know how far they could go with it, but I'm not sure what the situation. From my understanding, I think Pete was like, all right, yeah, I'll be done with it. You can, I'll sell my rights to use the name Monster with cigars if you want. I think he counter offered whatever their complaint was with that, and I think they declined that because he's still using the name Monster Series.
Yeah, I think yeah, he's still.
But
Yep.
but Pete does own the trademarking or the dress mark, whatever the correct term is. He
Yeah,
does
yeah.
own the word monster for cigars, and he also does own the word Halloween series, that stuff for cigars. So I know they came out with a green monster cigar or Monsta cigar with the stadium series with United Cigar. It was a cool idea, and I thought it was great. And yeah, it would have been cool to have a cigar called Green Monster. But the way that it works, whether you like it or not, you can't use that term with making a cigar. So, I think it would have been cool to have that. But this again, that's how it works. So if you don't like it, fine. It's a tough thing.
Yeah, I mean, this is just it's part of doing business. It's, like you said,
Yeah.
whether you agree with it or not. I mean, people have brands to protect, and that's how they make their money, and they have to protect that. So, totally understandable. But I am looking at the time here, and we are
We got a
approaching the.
basketball game.
I
We got a
know
basketball game. So I don't know if we do the sports segment anymore, but I'll make the sports segment quick.
we
The
don't,
the
but go ahead.
game one of the finals starts up in 19 minutes. I'll be watching Celtics at Warriors. I'm taking the Celtics in 6 games.
I hear a lot of people taking Warriors, and I was like, really interesting. I don't know.
There's a cool thing I read today. This is the 75th year of the NBA. So it's the 75th year of the NBA Finals. The Warriors and Celtics were two of the original teams in the NBA back when it started. And then the really unique part of this is the main stars, let's say the big three on each one of those teams, were all drafted by those teams. So you've got Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, drafted by the Warriors, multiple championships. And you've got Tatum, Brown, and Smart that were all drafted by the Celtics, going for their first championship in the finals. But homegrown, we've watched all these years, the last 10, 15 years, LeBron saying, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach, jumping around, super team, mega teams. These two teams built over the last 8, 9 years through trades, draft picks, and whatnot. They built the two best teams in the NBA right now, homegrown. So it's really a fun series. I'm going to enjoy watching it. I love watching the Warriors. Obviously, I'm a Celtics fan. But it's going to be a fun series, man. It's going to be great basketball. And if you're not a fan of the NBA because you think it's selfish or this and that, this series is for you. These teams play team basketball. They play defense the full court most of the time. They're all over the place. This is a great representation of the 75th year of NBA and professional basketball. So we're in for a treat tonight. So
And
there we go.
in the first year of the Eastern Conference Finals Most Valuable Player Award, it was won by Jason Tatum, a member of the Celtics. The other reason why that is significant is because that trophy has been named after Larry legend Larry Bird, who, as you know, was a Celtics legend. So it's fitting. The first year that was awarded to a Celtics player. I've been saying it all along. If that happened, it would be awesome, and it did. And I just think that that's a sweet moment too. Regardless of anything else, that's pretty sweet. So I'm definitely going to be checking that game out. Really excited. We are Boston people, so of course we'll be rooting for the Celtics. I know not everybody will agree. That's fine. That's the stance on Smokin Tabacco, is that we pick the Celtics to win. But we're gonna wrap this show up because we got a game to catch. So thank you for watching with us. Thank you for listening. Next week we have Dave from Cigar Life Guy. He's going to be talking a little bit about something different in the cigar industry that you may not have heard. If you're a cigar smoker or if you're in the cigar industry and you're looking to get life insurance, how can you get life insurance when you're a smoker? A lot of times, insurance companies, life insurance companies, will hold that against you. But he's going to get all into that and how you can get around certain loopholes and everything he does with that. And he's going to talk about that. So stay tuned next week for that. And
man, my wife's in the life insurance business.
Yeah.
This is going to be awkward. But also, I'm looking forward to him being on the show. I'm going to be on the show again next week, and I'm going to be live in the Massachusetts studio with you.
Oh yeah, that's right. You will be. You will be.
Mm-hmm. We've got we got a family dinner Wednesday night.
We do.
Up in
We
New
do.
Hampshire. We're going to have some cigars. We're going to enjoy ourselves for a little bit, and then I'll be live in person for that show next week. So 2 weeks in a row. That'll be exciting, man. I'm looking forward to being back up. It's been like 7 months practically, so it'll be great to be back up, and that sounds like it's going to be a fun show. Life
Yeah.
insurance loopholes.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll definitely be. It's something different. I met Dave at TPE, and we've been following each other on social media, and he brought the concept to me, and I was like, you know what? I know there's a lot of people who might find that dry, and I get it, but at the same time, there's also a lot of people who might be curious into what he actually has to say. And I said, you know what, Dave? Why don't you come on,
Yeah.
talk about what you do? He has a whole thing that he does, and maybe you'll learn something that maybe you didn't know. Maybe it'll actually help you. I don't know. So I'm always willing to give someone a chance to do something different on the show. So we're going to do something different. We're going to talk about cigars and smoking and how that can affect life insurance. So definitely check that out. There's no Spare Notes this week. Spare Notes returns next weekend with myself and William Cooper as we start to get into the pregame for the PCA trade show. And that's it. That's all we got. So go Celtics, and we'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.